Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm Teacher Jed. I'm so excited to have all of you here for our event tonight, working through some logic games together. I am joined by a couple other great experts. We've got Deb and Joe here. They know everything there is to know about the LSAT. Make sure you're asking lots of questions in that private chat. Izzy, I love that question. We can talk more later, but we actually do tuition assistance here at Kaplan. And we also have all kinds of different resources so that we can, meet you wherever you're at. We can figure this out, right? That we can figure this out together. But I'm so excited to have all of you here as we are working on logic games this evening. Well, I do encourage you to participate as much as you ever possibly can. The more you participate, the more you will learn. So whether that's talking to us in the chat, whether that's asking lots of good questions, please participate a whole bunch so that you can learn a whole bunch, because that's what you're here for. So I'm going to get my screen shared here for us, and we're going to get into logic games together. Yay, logic games. So first of all, tell me in the chat, how do you feel about these logic games? Some students, I know that they're actually your favorite. Other folks, I know that logic games is a real challenge and perhaps the thing that you're most scared of. How's logic games going for you with your studies? Oh, you're not saying, huh? All right, that's all right. That's all right. This is supposed to be a safe space. Oh, Izzy is into them. Izzy's in. All right, cool. Well, then hopefully this will be fun. But you can talk to us. You can be real in here, right? It's okay if these are not your favorite. It's okay if these are your favorite. Either way, we're going to be working on the most common type of game. We're confident that what we cover in the next hour or so will be useful to you and your score whenever it goes. Oh yeah, timing, 6883. Timing is a big deal for sure. And Rob, as you learn more about how these games work, they become a lot simpler because they're very standardized and they're all about patterns. So as you learn more about how they work, they become less daunting. I don't know that not every student becomes best friends with games, and that's okay. But there is some stuff that we just gotta know as regards logic games, even though the LSAT is a skill-based test. All right. Let's get rolling. So first, I just want a quick overview of the LSAT generally. So this slide here, right? We got 3 different types of sections. A full-length LSAT will have 5 sections for you, 4 of which will contribute to your overall score, 1 of which will not, that experimental section. Can anybody tell me what the experimental section is doing there on a full-length LSAT? Like, why do they have a section that doesn't contribute to your overall score? What does that have to do with the test, and what's it going to look like, and where's it going to be? Well, I'll answer the first question. They're testing out future test questions. They're using you as guinea pigs. That's what's going on. The experimental section is a way for them to maintain the standardization of the test, make sure that it's fair. But there's no way for you to know what kind of section you're going to get. It can appear anywhere on the test. It could be the very first section you see. It could be the very last section that you see. It is not marked in any way. It's just going to look like another section. So logical reasoning, logic games, or reading comp. You just won't know. And that can be a little bit scary. But the good strategic note, right? The only strategy that we can have is just do your best on every section that you see. There's also a writing sample. The writing sample is a 35-minute writing sample. It is a very straightforward activity. You should essentially be writing 2 paragraphs. It is very straightforward. You just want to respond directly to the prompt. You will not take that on test day, or at least you shouldn't. You have an entire year from your test date to get that writing sample completed. You only ever need 1. So if you've already done the writing sample, great work, you're done forever. You can do it more than once if you want, but you only need 1 on record and in order to see your scores. So you can do that at any time up to a week before your test and up to a year after your test. That you should do separately. Don't do it on the same day. Let yourself have a little break, because this is a long test, right? This test will take over 3 hours to complete if you're taking a full-length LSAT. But of course, if you are scheduled to take an LSAT before the end of the year, you won't be taking a full-length LSAT. Tell me in the chat, who in here knows for a fact that you will be taking the flex? The flex. Who in here knows that they're taking the flex? Tina, the writing sample does expire with your score after 5 years. That's true. And 6883, different schools do different things. And so for a while, the LSAT made the writing sample optional and nobody did it, and that made them sad, so they brought it back. Different schools do different things with that writing sample, but it is something that you should do a good job of. Megan, if you already have a writing sample on file, then you will not need to take that writing sample again. Okay, Kendall's taking the November test, great. So we have at least some folks that know they're taking the LSAT Flex. October and November have both been announced as Flex tests. Rob's doing November too, cool. We got a bunch of us. Okay, so I want to talk through quickly, briefly, some of the differences there. I don't want to get lost on this. They have a whole multiple websites about how the Flex works and stuff, but we should be clear, right, about what's different about this Flex test. First of all, it's shorter. You are not going to have 5 sections on your Flex test. You're not going to have an experimental section. You will not have 2 logical reasoning sections. You get 1 section of each type, and you get them back to back with no break. So if you're using the standard timing on the test, you're actually done in less than 2 hours. From the time the test starts to the time the test ends, we're talking about 1 hour and 45 minutes. You can have a 1-minute rest period in between sections, but during that rest period, you're not allowed to leave your seat. So there's no true break between the sections. You just will take all 3 of your sections, 1 of each type. We still don't know the order that they're going to come in. So some folks will start with logical reasoning, some folks will start with logic games, some folks will start with reading comp, but you will have exactly 1 of each type. And the big change, of course, is that you take the Flex test at home. So you need a quiet room where you will have a quiet space for 2 hours or so, and either a personal computer running Windows or a Mac computer. There's a whole website that actually has the tech requirements and a little feature that you should test your setup before your actual test, just to make sure that everything's working, so that we don't find out on test day that things aren't working the way we want them to. And if you aren't able to get either of those things, either a quiet space to take the test in or a PC or Mac that'll work, get in touch with the LSAC as quick as possibly you can. They have accommodations that they can make for you, right? They can get you a hotel room so you have a quiet place to take the test, or send you a tablet, right? The test went digital last year. They bought thousands of tablets that they've just got sitting in a warehouse, and they would happily loan you one so that you can complete your exam. Things that are allowed have also changed for the LSAT Flex. In particular, you should, not just allowed, but you should have scratch paper. As you'll see as we work through these logic games together, that's actually necessary in order for you to do well. So you get 5 sheets of scratch paper. You can use the front side and the back side of those. It can be lined, unlined, or graph paper, whatever you like. You get any kind of writing utensil that you want. Used to be on the LSAT, you could only use, a number 2 or HB pencil, right, a wooden pencil. But now they're allowing mechanical pencils, they're allowing pens. That's also a change with the LSAT Flex. You're allowed a beverage. You don't get a true break, but you are allowed a beverage. They're a little bit picky about the size of the beverage and what kind of container it can be and that kind of thing. But hey, you should do this. My advice to you is to do something that has sugar in it. Your brain likes sugar. It will keep your blood sugar up and you doing your best work. And then finally, brand new to the test as of the August exam, you're allowed to have ear plugs as well. Not electronic earplugs, but just standard foam earplugs. You'll have to show those to your virtual proctor for the Flex test. And there will be someone watching you take the test through your webcam. That's a little bit weird, but what I've heard from virtually all of my students is after they got the test started, right, that there's a whole like check-in procedure and you have to show the proctor that you're not trying to cheat and that kind of thing. But after you get the test started, you're doing the LSAT. And so within a few seconds to a minute, you'll have forgotten all about that proctor. They're not there to play gotcha with you. They're not there to interrupt you. They're there to make sure that nobody's trying to cheat. And you won't talk to them again, assuming that nothing untoward happens until the end of the test. For almost all of my students, they reported that as soon as the test started, they basically forgot that the proctor existed, and then only remembered when they got to the end of the test and they had to wait a second. There's a checkout procedure that I got to do. What was this thing? And the proctor will walk you through all of that. Otherwise, though, the test is largely the same. The content is largely the same. The interface is exactly the same as you'd be taking on the digital test. And the LSAC Law Hub has that interface for you to play with. So you can sign up and get access to all of the tests, or you can see there's a couple free ones on there, in fact. So you can see what the actual interface looks like, and you should do that before your test so you can play with the tools that they give you. You get a couple different colors, a highlighter and stuff. You want to know how to navigate that interface. And the scoring is overall the same. Now, of course, there are fewer questions, but they still just add up the number of right answers that you have and then put you on a bell curve. And so that's how scores are determined. And you're going to get a score 120 to 180. Law schools are treating the LSAT Flex just as a regular test, so you don't need to worry about that. So it's largely the same. There are some differences. It's a shorter test, and so if endurance is a big strength for you, this is a disadvantage. If endurance is not a strength of yours, then this is an advantage. And also, since there is less logical reasoning, reading, comp, and logic games matter more for your score. So depending on your personal strengths and weaknesses, that might be an advantage or a disadvantage. But mostly the LSAT is mostly the same, even with this LSAT Flex that is a bit shorter and you take it home. Of course, as you have questions about that stuff, keep asking those good questions. But last thing before we get into our actual content tonight, the essential facts and figures, right? The cost of the test, your score will be valid. Regular LSAT Flex for 5 years. You can take any one of the 9 tests that they offer each year, but you can only take 3 in a given calendar year, or 5 times in a 5-year period. So it's, and I like to talk about this the other way. You don't need more than one LSAT score, and the LSAT isn't really fun to take. It's also probably not the best way you can think of spending $200. If you want to know how you do on the test, sign up to take our free practice test. It's a real LSAT that real lawyers took to go to real law school. In fact, I got 90 real LSATs that you can take and see how you would do, right? So we shouldn't be taking the LSAT until we know that we're ready. And the way we'll know we're ready is we've taken a real LSAT, a practice test, and gotten the score that we want to get. And if we don't get the score we want to get on our practice test, well, then we keep studying in between, right? You only need one real score. Don't take this test unless you're ready for it. There's no reason not to be ready for it. And different people have different amounts of work to get ready for it. Some students, well, the lucky few, take their first practice test and discover, hey, you know what? I'm really good at this LSAT thing. I don't have to study at all. It's wonderful. Good. Most of us mortals, though, we actually have to study. And it's hard, but different folks need to study different amounts and in different ways. So my advice to you is, if you have not yet taken a full-length practice test, do so. This should be the way you start your studies. Even before you study, see where you're at. Because just like the Maps app on your phone, right? If we want to build you a good, comprehensive study plan that gets you from where you are to where you want to be, we need both of those endpoints. We need to know point A and point B. What's your goal score? Where are you trying to get to? And where are you starting from? Where are your current strengths and weaknesses? Where's your current score? What's your current availability like in terms of study? I have students that treat the LSAT like a full-time job. It's wonderful. We can make big improvements fast. But I have a lot of students that can't do that, right? They've got other responsibilities. And so we need to build your study plan around you, about your current strengths and weaknesses, around your score goal, around the amount of time you have to study, around how you learn best, right? And so there's no one size fits all approach to preparing for the LSAT. It really should be customized based on you. All right, we'll have some time to talk at the end of our lesson tonight about some of those options and other things, and I'll answer any and all questions that you have then. But I do want to get into the content because we promised you content, and I want to work on logic games because that's what we're here for. So let's start on our logic games, and here's what we're going to try to get, not me, but you to accomplish over the next hour. Identify strict sequencing games. Where you're trying to place entities into slots, and then make sure that you know how to approach these, right? What are the appropriate strategies and tactics to approach these in the very best way? Well, I'm going to start by giving you the actual Kaplan method. Who already has the Kaplan LSAT book? Who's been using our methods already? And because if you do, and if you have, then I'm going to be depending on you as we work through this lesson. I'm going to be asking lots of questions and depending on you to help me out. Because this is the real method that we use every single time we get to a game. And one of the strange things about the way you must approach logic games, I know that timing is an issue. You actually have to invest a lot of time up front if you're going to do well. And this can feel nervous, right? Having to spend so much time before we get to the questions, but it is really necessary in terms of organizing the information that the test maker gives us so that we can do a good job in those questions. So the first step of the method is our overview step. And in an overview step, we're just trying to orient ourselves to the game, figure out what kind of game we have. There are several logic games types that the test maker tests: ordering games, sequencing games, just one of those types. So we need to make sure we identify the correct game type, make sure that we identify who or what's moving around our sketch. We call those entities. And then also identify any rules before we even get to the rules, limitations on how we approach the test maker's action. After that, then we create a good sketch. I'm going to give you momentarily the standard Kaplan sketch for strict sequencing games. But I want to say this explicitly right up front. There's no such thing as the right sketch to a game. I know some of you are worried about getting that, right? Like some of you are nervous. You're like, I want to make sure I get the right sketch. There's no such thing. There are useful sketches, and then there are lots of wrong sketches, right, that are inaccurate. But there's lots of right sketches too. As long as the sketch is accurate and helps you get right answers, it's a good sketch. And anybody that can only do a game one way is not an expert, right? So you should always do things your preferred way. And so it's okay for there to be variation in how folks approach games. But it takes a tremendous amount of practice and work for you to develop those personal preferences, for you to learn what really works for you and what doesn't. And so if you're new to games as of tonight, I encourage you to steal, right? The strategies and tactics I'm going to be showing you have worked for thousands of other students. And it's a great starting place. But I'll even show you how I myself have some different ways that I approach things. And that's totally normal and natural. Okay, and then rules. How do we write down the information that they give us? Now, the rules are very, very important, of course, and particularly because this is a test for future lawyers, right? What they're trying to get at with logic games, it seems really like it doesn't apply, but the skills that they're testing here, figuring out when a rule applies and when it doesn't apply, figuring out how rules interact with each other, figuring out hypothetical scenarios and what else would happen in those scenarios given a set of rules, right? These are very similar to the skills you're going to need in some of your law school classes, particularly statutory law. So even though it seems like, trying to figure out how Timmy organizes his bookshelf isn't really relevant to what a lawyer does, the underlying skills of making good deductions and understanding how rules work, very, very important to the work of a lawyer. Then the magic step. not really magic, but we make deductions. We figure out what else must be true before we ever get to the questions. So it's a lot of work up front, but by doing a good job with that work up front, you're able to answer the questions quickly and effectively. Now, I really, though, I don't want you to be scared of logic games. There is some stuff to know. There is. I'll make sure you know it. But I want you to see that as we work through these games, there's no magic. It's really just a matter of organizing the information effectively. And so what I like to say is what we're really trying to do is not train you. I'm trying to train your pencil. I want to train your pencil to do a better job of organizing the information for you and letting you see what's happening in the game. So that's where I hope to get you, is we want to train this pencil to do a really good job of keeping track of information for us so that we don't have to remember anything. And if you do a good job of that, well, then you can answer many questions very quickly in logic games. All right, so let's actually look at a game. This is a real game that real test takers went to real law school after doing. So I'll show you how I, as an expert, would approach this. The first thing I want to do is I want to identify what my situation is. And so my situation is that we are on a mountain trail. Oh, okay. I live in Colorado. I know a thing or two about a mountain trail. This seems all right. So we're on a mountain trail. And now I've got to figure out what. So what is going to move around this sketch? Well, let's see. The guideposts don't move, right? The guideposts, they just stand there. So that can't be my entities. What are my entities? My entities are the pictures. I got pictures of different animals. Oh, this is an adorable game. I'm so into it. So the entities in this game are the animals. And they are the thing that are going to move around this sketch. So they are the thing that I want to make sure that I'm keeping track of. But ain't nobody got time to write down fox and grizzly and hare and lynx and moose and porcupine. Nobody's got time for that. So we just use single letters. Seriously, just single letters. And notice how all of those animals start with a different letter. They did that on purpose so that we could use single letters to just keep track of our entities. Just jot them down. Now, what am I asked to do with my entities? Well, anytime they only give you one type of entity, and I only have one type of entity here, there's only two options. They could either be asking me to put that stuff in order, or they could be asking me to pick and choose from it. Well, I know for a fact that they are not asking me to pick and choose. And let me show you how I know. It says that there are exactly 6 guideposts, numbered 1 through 6. And that each guidepost pictures a different one of 6 animals. I want you to see how strongly worded that is. Tell me in the chat, would it be easier or harder, this game, if instead of saying exactly 6 guideposts, they were saying at most 6 guideposts? And instead of saying each guidepost pictures a different one of 6 animals, they said some guideposts picture at least one of 6 animals. Would this make the game easier or harder to make that language less stringent, less strict? To use language like at most or at least or some. Would that help us and make this game easier? Or would that hurt us and make this game harder? I agree. That would make this game way, way harder. Way, way harder, right? I love good restrictive language like this. The fewer things that can happen, the happier we should be. So when Riley the test maker, and I call the test maker Riley, it helps me to personify them. You can call the test maker whatever you like. When Riley the test maker uses nice strict language like this is nice. I appreciate this. Thanks, Riley. Appreciate you making this nice and straightforward for us, because it's one of the ways they can make a game harder is by using less stringent language, by making more options available. And so, okay, you're limiting what can happen here. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, I see no reason not to use our standard Kaplan sketch on this game, given that we got 6 guideposts and each one has just one picture on it. Okay, I'm going to use the standard Kaplan sketch. So here it is. Drum roll, please. Ready? You ready? Ta-da! Well, that's really good. No, seriously, that's a really good sketch. I know it doesn't seem like much, but this does all the things I wanted to do. It's really clear and easy to read. It is able to account for what is certain and what is uncertain. And it's not going to take me very long to draw. Those are the things that I worry about. And this does all of those things. I told you there was no magic. Right, we're doing an obvious thing here. Now, I'm going to be totally honest. For my ideal sketch, I wouldn't have slots. I find that the slots make my paper messy. I know other Kaplan experts that they don't like to draw the numbers. They just like to have the slots. That's all they want. I know other Kaplan experts that like to have both, just like this. Which way is best for you? It's your brain, man. So you're going to have to experiment with this and practice with this and discover for yourself which way is your favorite way to do it. Okay. So now I'm through step 2 of the method. I've got my overview done. Then that let me know what kind of sketch to draw. Done it. And now we're into the 3rd step of the method, which is I got to translate my rules. And I want you to see that, again, there's really no magic here. It's just I'm going to be very careful and I'm going to slow down as we go through the rules. Many students are tempted to rush. They're tempted. They know that time is tight and they want to go fast. But if you make a mistake with the limitations and the rules of a game, you're sunk before you ever begin. And this will happen to you sometime in your LSAT career. Come on, this is a safe space. Who has had this happen to them? That you mistranslated a rule or you misunderstood a limitation or you assumed a thing that wasn't actually true on a logic game. I'll be honest, it's happened to me. I've done every single logic game. Of course it's happened to me before. That's how we all learn, right? Is we make mistakes. And it is so painful. It is the absolute worst. Because you get your game all set up and then you get into the questions and you're like, it seems like there isn't a right answer to this one. And then the next question, you're like, it seems like all of them are right. I don't understand what's going on. And it's because you screwed up something with the rules and you got to go back and fix it. And it takes forever and it's a real bummer. So do not rush this part. Slow down. And don't you dare assume nothing. Every time we get to one of these rules, you want to ask yourself, what don't I know about this? Well, the first rule is pretty nice. The first rule is pretty nice and straightforward. Grizzly is on 3 or 4. Now, I have students that their first impulse when they see a rule like this one is to jot this down off to the side. So what they want to do is something like the grizzly is on 3 or 4. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is accurate, but it's not the best way to do it. See, your picture is supposed to make things easy to understand, right? And I'm trying to train my pencil to do a good job. That's just not the most effective way to do this. Put it right next to the sketch. Make it obvious. You're drawing a picture, man. Make it obvious. So let's do that. Now, this is a place where some students are tempted to do 2 sketches. No way in heck I'm going to start doing 2 sketches right now. There are times where it's appropriate to do multiple sketches prior to getting to the questions, but only when you're going to be able to make lots of deductions in at least one of those sketches. Here, that if I draw 2 sketches, one with grizzly and 3, one with grizzly and 4, I'm not going to be able to say anything else. So this is not a place to start drawing 2 sketches, at least not yet. Okay. Now we're told that the moose is numbered lower than the hare. Yeah, I'm going to give you a second to think about this. Does that mean which one is to the left of the other? Who is to the left? Is it the moose or the hare? Who's going to be on the left-hand side of our sketch? The moose is numbered lower than the hare. All right, it's going to be the moose. But sometimes people think that it's going to be the hare, and it's an easy mistake to make, right? Because if you think that we're ranking our guideposts, then when you see it is lower than the hare, then you'd be like, oh, it's closer to the end. No. Right? That they are being very persnickety with how they word this. It is numbered lower than the hare. So that means that the moose is going to be to the left. And if you mistranslate this, you're sunk before you ever start. You've got to make sure that you're being careful as you translate these things. And then for this final rule, I'm just going to show you what the picture is. And I want you to tell me in the chat, did Riley the test maker write this as simply and easily as they could have? Is this the easiest way to describe it goes fox, then lynx, then moose? Nah, dog. Nah, dog. Right? What the heck? Why would you say it this way? Why would you say it this way? Their job is to make it tricky, right? Their job is to write a hard test, a fair test. It is an accurate description, but not the most straightforward way. You've heard of legalese. This is a thing that lawyers need to be able to decode. So they do this on purpose. Absolutely. Of course they do. To challenge you and to make sure that you know what's going on. Slow down with your rules, because if you mistranslate, you are sunk. Okay, and so that's step one, or step, I guess up to step 3 of the method, right? It's just organize the information that they've given you. That's all we've done so far. But even with this, who here feels like just with a simple picture like this, where we've just organized the information that they've given us, that you could do a reasonable job in the questions? Who feel like, okay, just having this little basic sketch, I could probably work out the answers to some of the questions. I think that several of you, in fact, all of you, right? If you could get to this point, you could probably do okay on this question set. But I don't want you to do okay. I want you to do terrific. I want you to be an expert. And in order to be an expert and do terrific, we got to do a little bit more work. That's the way it is. So what work do we need to do? Well, what we need to do is we need to try to combine this information, make deductions, make inferences, combine the information. And some of you, I know you've been aching for me to notice that we've got 2 rules about our friend the moose. The moose is what we call a duplicated entity. It is in 2 rules. And when they do this, you should look to see if you can combine those rules for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. And for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, we can. And we should. So let's. If the fox goes before the lynx, and the lynx goes before the moose, and the moose goes before the hare, then that means that the fox and the lynx also go in front of the hare. We can just combine those 2 rules, and we should, just like that. Now, there's nothing about order that you have to wait. If you noticed that rule 3 just built onto rule 2, you could have built this right onto rule 2 if you wanted. That you don't have to wait to make deductions, or you're just like, oh, then the lynx goes in front of the moose, and oh, then the fox goes in front of the lynx. That's fine, right? That's better, because that saves you work. And as you get better at logic games, you start to see shortcuts like this. So this is one way that we improve our timing on logic games, is that the better we get at logic games, the more shortcuts we see and that we can take. And so the less work that we have to do, and less work is better. But now we don't need that first for rule about the moose, because we've just combined that information all together with our second rule about the moose. And this is a big old stinking block of entities. We call entities that work together like this a block. We got the fox and the lynx and the moose and the hare. That's 4 out of our 6 entities. That's most of them. We know where the grizzly goes-ish. It goes somewhere in the middle. But that's still only 5 of the entities. There's this other entity hanging out, not doing anything. It's doing its own thing. And we call this entity, the one that doesn't play by any rules, a floater. Well, that's not how I think of this floater. The porcupine in my mind is not a floater. We call it a floater because they can float around the sketch, right? They're not tied down anywhere. But the way I think about an entity like the porcupine is I think about them as being the rebel entity, right? There's no rules about the porcupine. You just can't know where the porcupine is going to go. And so when I think about the porcupine, I think that they're the type of entity that wears their collar popped, right? And they got their fingerless gloves on. You know how on TV, if a character's wearing fingerless gloves, they're really tough, right? So that's who the porcupine is. The porcupine's the tough guy entity. And it doesn't follow any rules, man. It does anything that it wants to do. Don't tie me down. Well, why do I want to know? Why do I want to know that the porcupine can't be tied down? Because it lets me be strategic in the questions. See, they love to ask questions like, which of the following could be true, or which of the following could be false. If they ask one of those questions, the porcupine, because they can do almost anything, is a great place to start in the answer choices, because they can do almost anything. The exact opposite of a could be is a must be. And the exact opposite of a floater, like the porcupine, is the VIP. And so your VIP are the entities that boss a lot of other entities around. And so here, I would say that our VIPs are the fox and the hare. And the reason is, depending on where the fox and the hare go, they're going to boss around a lot of other entities. They're the endpoints of my block. And so knowing where they go could let me make lots of other deductions about my other entities. So they're going to be very important in this game. And so they would be terrible guesses on a could be question, whereas they would be wonderful guesses on a must be question, because they are really, really restricted as to where they can go. The other thing to know about VIPs is when you get stuck on a question, knowing about the VIPs is very helpful, because you can just look to your VIPs. Your VIPs are persnickety. They don't like to go just anywhere. And so knowing that you got VIPs on hand is a good thing to do, because that'll help you figure out how the game works. All right, but this is it. We could make lots and lots of negative deductions and write them all down. It would not be wrong to do so. I'm going to show you just one example of that. Some test takers will always want to write these down. Some test takers will not always want to write these down. I can't tell you, but I want to show you how we make this deduction. And so I'm just going to focus on the fox. Just focus on the fox. Places that the fox cannot go. Well, for instance, the fox cannot go last. And the reason that the fox cannot go last is because it's got the lynx and the moose and the hare to come after it. And so I would break the game if I tried to put the fox last, right? The lynx and the moose and the hare would be where we're supposed to go. And for the same logic, right, the fox cannot be fifth, because there had to be room for the lynx and the moose and the hare, right? And so I could get one of them in if the fox goes fifth, but I couldn't get all of them in. There's just not room. And likewise, the fox cannot go fourth for the same exact reasons. So there are lots of deductions that you can make like this. You can make the same deductions about the lynx and the moose and the hare anytime on a sequencing game. You have a rule about the order. You can make these kinds of negative deductions, and they can be very helpful to do ahead of time. But I want to show you that you don't even need to make those deductions ahead of time in order to do well in the game, because often students get into this mode where they just stare at it. Instead of getting into the questions, they just stare at it, because you want to make deductions and you don't want to miss any, but staring at it is a really terrible way of getting points. I don't want you to stare at it. I want you to attack the test and try to get whatever points you can, because some of the points are actually pretty straightforward. So for instance, this first question, and this is the real first question from this set, is what we call an acceptability question, because it just asks what's acceptable, what could happen in this game. Well, lots of things could happen in this game, but what are we looking for specifically, Jed? Well, we're just looking for one acceptable order. Now, there's two things to know about a question like this one. One, this is probably the question that those of you who have been studying had the most success with as you've been studying, right? That these are usually pretty straightforward questions. But there's a fast way to do it and a not fast way to do it. And so I want to show you the shortcut. I want to show you the fast way. And so for ease of our discussion, I'm going to number our rules, and we're going to work through this question together. And so what most people do when they get a question like this one, the slow way to do this question, is they go answer choice by answer choice. They come over to their answers and they say, all right, so let me check answer choice alpha against my rules. That takes forever. Instead of doing that, instead of trying to find the right answer, we're going to eliminate the wrong answers. We're going to eliminate down to the right answer based on our rules. And you should always start with whichever rule is going to be the easiest one to check. And since we've already made the deductions, I want to check this whole big rule all at once. I'm looking for answers that go fox, lynx, moose, and hare. And if the answer does not go fox, lynx, moose, hare, then that answer is wrong, and I want to eliminate it. So just based on this big old block that we have, combining rules 2 and 3, we should start eliminating answers. Like, for instance, answer choice Charlie. Answer choice Charlie we can eliminate because it does not go fox, lynx, moose. It goes fox, moose. That's wrong. That does not follow the rule. And so here's why this is faster. Now I don't have to check answer choice Charlie against anything else ever again. Well, likewise, I can get rid of delta because that goes lynx, fox. That's not right. I'm supposed to go fox, lynx. And same thing with echo. That goes fox, hare. We're lynx and moose. What are you doing? So I see how I could quickly eliminate those three answers just based on this large block. That's the kind of thing we want to do on an acceptability question. And then the next thing is, okay, well, there's only one rule remaining. Grizzly has to be guidepost 3 or 4. Well, in answer choice alpha, the grizzly is 3rd. That's fine. But in answer choice bravo, the grizzly's 5th. That doesn't work at all. So bravo, get out of here. Alpha is the correct answer. Now, if I didn't have to talk to you about it, I could get this point right in about 30 seconds. It is absolutely worth doing because this is a good, quick, easy question. And so this is the way I want you to approach these questions. Eliminate down to the right answer. Most games have an acceptability question. There are usually 3 or 4 of these on the test, 1 per game. And it's usually the first question. This is a nice, quick, easy point to put in your bucket. Please use this strategy on test day. You just leveled up. Okay. Well, so 3651, it's all rules that we get. You can use any rule to eliminate your answers. But you're going to be taking a digital test. So before you move on, you should jot this answer down. You should jot this answer down because that way you'll be able to see what the answer was. So we would write this down. All right, so fox, lynx, grizzly, porcupine, moose, hare. And that's a valid solution for this game. So I can refer back to it anytime I want. But the other nice thing about this is that I can use this acceptability question to figure out how to draw the game. Like if you were stuck on how to draw a game, look at the acceptability question. Man, look, the test maker, they just went from 1 to 6, left to right. Maybe I should just draw a picture that's from left to right, 1 to 6, right? So it's okay to steal from the test maker too. I encourage you to do that, in fact. So there's lots of great stuff to take away from your test maker on an acceptability question. Please make use of the things that the test maker gives you on an acceptability question like this one. Okay, good. Now, after I get a point like this, the next thing I'm looking for in my game is I am looking for a new if question. Those are the only 2 question types we should be looking for first, acceptability and new if. And the reason we do so is because these are the easier questions, one, and also they're the more common questions. 2/3 of the questions on the test are either acceptability or new if. So by getting these points first, we're making sure we're getting the most of the points out of the section before we try to get the harder ones. And our previous work on these questions, because we will need to do additional work, will save us time on those harder questions. Let me show you. We go to the next question in this question set, and this is not a new if question. So I'm just going to straight up skip it. That's what you should do on test day 2. You look at this question, you say, oh, well, it's not giving me a new piece of information. I don't want to do this one. But this one is. Now, we got timeout. Some people are tempted to start drawing on their master sketch. And I got to stamp this out right now. Some people are going, okay, so the moose is on guidepost 3, and you stick the moose in here. Ain't no way. We took a couple minutes to set this master sketch up. It's on your scratch paper. You can look at it anytime you want, but you cannot draw on it for this question. There's a couple reasons why. Reason number 1, this new if does not apply to every single other question for sure. So you should not mess with your master sketch. Now some of you are like, but Jed, I have an eraser. I can just erase. Ain't no way. You want to erase? Because maybe you'll erase the wrong stuff, right? And then you'll have to redraw, and that's a mess. You should just draw a new little sketch. Now, hold on. Some of you are like, Jed, I don't have time as it is. You want me to draw another sketch? Yes, I do. Remember how I said that I wanted my sketch to be quick to replicate? Because I got to replicate it. Well, how long, tell me in the chat, how long do you think it would take me to draw this sketch again for this question? Because that's what I'm talking about doing. I'm going to redraw this sketch from scratch on my scratch paper. How long do you think it'll take me to do? I'm going to start over so I can have a little sandbox I can play in. Well, you want to say, huh? How long do you think it'll take me? I'm serious. I'm going to redraw this game. Nobody wants to bet me? All right. Well, I'll show you then. I'll show you. I'll show you. Here's ready. Somebody time me. 3 seconds. I'm not quite that quick, Izzy. I'm not quite that quick. But time me. I'm going to be close to 3 seconds. Ready, steady, go. Done. That's it. That's all it is. Totally worth. It will take me longer to erase than do what I just did. It took me like 5 seconds, right? Totally worth 5 seconds. But Jed, you didn't write all the things. You don't have the grizzly bear there. You didn't write down your entities again. Why would I? I can look at that anytime I want. I don't have to draw all that stuff. I can look at it anytime I want. All I need is a sandbox, a place to play. And now I have one. A nice, clean, organized place. Look, knows how I even labeled it, so I know which question it goes to. So if I want to come back to it later, I can. And then I incorporate the new information. The moose is on guidepost 3. I got it. Moose, you're on 3. Now, before I do anything else, I start making deductions. If the moose is on 3, what else can we say, y'all? If we put the moose on 3, it's time for us to make some deductions. Who else does this tell us about? What else could we say? 3651, you got it. You got it. All right, let's see here. Good. Yeah. If the moose is on 3, then the grizzly bear that only likes to go on 3 or 4, the grizzly bear is going to have to go on 4. Good. And let's see. Like the moose also relates to the fox and the lynx. Oh, there's only 2 spots, so I guess the fox and the lynx have to go in front of the moose. Yeah, that has to be. And then, well, I don't actually know, do I? Right? We got the hare. The hare comes somewhere after, so the hare's over here someplace. And we also have the porcupine, our floater, right? And I just don't know where either one of these go. They could go either place there. They can swippy swap. But now I've made my deductions. I drew a little sketch. Didn't take me very long. I made my deductions. I'm ready to go. So they asked, what is the lowest numbered guidepost that could picture the porcupine? Well, guidepost 5. That's it. That's the right answer. Really, it's as straightforward as that. This is not a gimme point. This is a point you have to work for, but this is a gettable point for all of you. All you have to do is make sure you organize the information they give you and then follow the chain of logic. Because that's the way these new if questions work. It's like knocking down one domino, right? And then you got to figure out, well, what other domino does that knock down? Until you knock all the dominoes down that you can, and then you just answer the question. So you see why it was worth us spending some time setting this up and figuring out how things work and making some deductions, so that when you got to a question like this one, you just like, oh, let me just do the little work and I can get the point. And I am A-okay drawing one sketch in order to get a point on a question like this one. Absolutely fine. Won't take too long at all. And now I've got another good sketch that works for this game. Killing it. Killing it. All right, let's keep this up. We got momentum. I like momentum. Let's see. Looking for another new if question. Oh, there we got another new if question. Well, you know what to do. Start doing it. Start doing it while I do it too. Go on, go. All right, so if guidepost 5 does not picture the moose, now hold on. We literally just a second ago had a question that where the moose was not on guidepost 5, right? For 3, we had the moose on guidepost 3. And so we can just use this work before we're doing any other work. So what must be true? Well, we can eliminate anything that's not true in the sketch. The moose is on guidepost 3, the grizzly is on, okay, so those things are true. Porcupine is on guidepost 5, that doesn't have to be true. Hare is on guidepost 6, that doesn't have to be true, right? In sketch 3, those things don't have to be true. So this is one place where using previous work can be helpful to us. Okay, but I want to get this point. Well, so where could the moose go? Well, the moose could never go in 1 or 2 because of the fox and the lynx. And the moose can also not be 6 rather, because of the hare. And the moose couldn't be 5 because that's what the new rule says. Well, I already know what happens if the moose is on 3, so let me just put the moose on 4 and find out what happens there. So then I put the grizzly on 3, and then, oh, look, it looks like the fox and the lynx go in front again, and then I don't know what happens with the hare and the porcupine in 5 and 6 again. So lynx on guidepost 2, that looks pretty good, but let me make sure. The moose is on guidepost 3, nah. Grizzly's on guidepost 4, nah. Oh, yeah, alpha's the correct answer. Alpha's the correct answer. Look for opportunities to use previous work. Look for opportunities to not do everything that might occur to you. That the reason that we draw a new sketch is twofold. The first thing is to help us get this question right. But the other thing is then we can use this work again on other questions to get those questions right. And so by making sure that we're using opportunities for previous work, we can maximize our score. Quick, easy points. All right, we're killing it. We're killing it on this game. We're killing it on this game. Let's go. Let's go. More points. More points. More points. Hey, no. What's going on? What's going on? Okay. Question 5. Now, normally this is not a question that I would jump to next. It's not a new if question. But sometimes the test maker just wants to give you points for making good deductions, for knowing how the game works. And we already made this deduction. Who was it? Who was that entity that we said was a floater that could do anything they wanted? That was a rebel. Who is that entity wearing their fingerless gloves with a collar popped that could go anywhere they wanted? They don't listen to no rules. Oh, that's right. It's the porcupine. Yo, this is exactly why you want to pay attention to this stuff. Because they will ask. They will ask. Knowing about your floaters and VIPs makes a real difference on these games. And sometimes it makes such a difference that they just give you a point for it. Not always. But this is the type of thing that they're interested in. And so part of your studies is not just about learning how logic games work, but it's about learning what the test maker likes to ask questions about so that you can predict what it is that you're going to be asked about and do that stuff in advance. And this is not just for logic games. This is for reading comp, right? The test maker asks the same questions about reading comp over and over and over again. You can learn to read for that stuff. Same thing with logical reasoning, right? Different question types. The test maker is going to do the same thing in the answer choices. So knowing about the test, studying the test, and learning about which questions they ask and how they ask is very valuable to your score. Please make sure that whatever resources you're using to study are specific to the LSAT. And use actual LSAT questions so that you can learn about what the test maker asks about. All right, we got our fingerless gloves on the porcupine. Good, quick, easy point there. Let's finish strong here. Question 6. Now, we're told the moose is numbered exactly 1 higher than the lynx. All right. I'm going to be honest, this is my favorite. Because on this, if they don't tell me where the stuff goes, so they just tell me that the lynx and the moose are holding hands. So I need to draw that. Okay, so lynx and moose, you got to hold hands now. Lynx and moose hold hands. Well, I can still make some deductions here, and I should. So let's make some deductions. Lynx and moose, you got to hold hands. No, come on. Killing me. All right, so lynx and moose are holding hands. We're going to still have the fox in front of them. We're still going to have the hare after them. Now, the question is, where does our grizzly bear go? Because I'm worried about the lynx and the moose being in spots 3 and 4 and the grizzly bear getting angry. You don't want to make a grizzly bear angry. So we don't want to put the grizzly out, right? We want to make sure that the grizzly has room. And the grizzly either goes in front of them or behind them because the grizzly wants to be in 3 and 4. So the grizzly has to go to one side of them, either here or there. And then the porcupine is just going to fill in the gaps, right? That's what the porcupine does, is it minds its own business and it just goes wherever it wants to go. Well, if this is abstract for you, you should just draw the picture. If you have a hard time evaluating from here, then what you should do is you should draw it. When in doubt, draw it out. That's what your pencil's for. It won't take very long. Let me just show you. Some of you I know, you're already voting. You're doing a great job, right? But so the grizzly is either in 3 or 4. Well, if the grizzly's in 3, then the lynx and the moose and the hare go like this. And then you got the fox and the porcupine up front. But if the grizzly's in 4, then the lynx and the moose go like this. And then you got the fox up front and you got the hare and the porcupine behind. Okay, so they're asking what could happen. Could guidepost 5 pitch the hare? It looks okay. Well, let's look at the other answers. Is the guidepost 4 ever the moose? No. Is guidepost 4 ever the porcupine? No. Is guidepost 3 ever the lynx? No. Is guidepost 3 ever the porcupine? No. Oh, it's got to be alpha. Now, I do recommend, in general, if you've got time for it, that you eliminate down to the right answer on could be questions. And the reason is simple. Sometimes you won't make all the deductions. And so there's more than one answer that could be true based on your sketch. And so if you want to be sure of your answer, elimination is a better strategy. But if you know that time is tight and you see an answer choice that works, go with it. Now, on a must be, that's not so, right? If you on a must be question, if you see it in your sketch and you know it must be true, then go with it. But on a could be question, right? You want to be careful before you select an answer choice. Okay. So we got 5 points already out of these 6, but I want to get all 6. And so we saved it for last for a reason. Going back to question 2. Question 2. Clear all my work. Question 2. We want to know who cannot go on guidepost 3. Well, here's the deal. The reason we say this for last is we've already got some sketches where some of these, we got pictures, right, of some animals already on guidepost 3. You tell me in the chat, who are some people that we already have pictures of in guidepost 3? We know for a fact that they can go on guidepost 3 because we got pictures that say it. Well, yeah, sure. We got the moose, that was the new if for question 3. And we got the grizzly, of course. The grizzly goes on guidepost 3 a lot. And oh, we even have the lynx, don't we? The lynx can go on guidepost 3 as well. Well, so then this leaves us with the fox and the porcupine. Now, if you're a betting person, you'd probably not bet on the porcupine, right? Because the porcupine can do anything it wants. But of course, when in doubt, sketch it out. So you just try. You know, okay, well, let me just try. I'm going to put the porcupine on guidepost 3. Let me see if I can draw this picture. So they start drawing the picture. Well, that means grizzly goes here. And then the moose and the hare and the fox and the lynx. Oh, yeah, it looks like the porcupine can go there too. Oh, it's the fox. The reason to save a question like this one for later in the question set is because it allows you to then be strategic with the questions. It allows you to be strategic in approaching your answer choices by allowing you to do less work. That's exactly why you do it. So knowing not just how to approach a single question in logic games, but how to approach a question set in logic games allows you to get more right answers faster. And that's what it's all about. Okay. First things first, you just saw me work through this game with you. Did I do anything that you could never learn to do? Did I do any magic? Do I have anything hidden up my sleeves here? Did I have the answers written down on my wrist so that I could just know which one was the right answer ahead of time and you know, do magic to get you there? Is there anything here that you couldn't learn to do? Of course not. There's no magic. Now, that doesn't mean that all of you are ready to do great on all logic games right away, but there's no magic here. All of you can learn to do this. And if you learn nothing else from tonight, I hope you learn that. I don't want you to be scared of logic games. Yes, they are tough. They are. Yes, they will take practice. They will. But all of you, every single one of you, can learn to beat these logic games. You're going to have to work at it. It's going to take practice. Coming to my class is not good enough. I tell the same thing to my students. I tell them they need to do one logic game a day, one a day, because that practice is the thing that makes the difference. But all of you can learn to beat these. So don't be scared of logic games. Just know that they're tough. Get yourself the right resources and strategies, and then practice the heck out of them. All right. Thing two, timing. Izzy brought up timing. Timing's a real thing. So strategy matters. Like on that acceptability question, eliminating down the right answer was faster. Saving question 2 for the end so that we could quickly eliminate some of the answers and do less work. That matters, right? That speeds us up. Half of the answer to finishing the section on time is good strategy, knowing which questions to target, which ones to skip, knowing your good strategies for approaching. The other half of timing, I'll tell you the secret. You're not going to like this secret, but I'll tell you the secret to timing. I like to teach this argument by analogy. So I was not always fast at tying a bow tie either, right? I was not born knowing how to tie a bow tie, and I certainly wasn't fast at it. I had to get myself a bow tie to practice with, and I had to go onto the YouTube and get some instruction, see some people tie some bow ties. And then I had to practice tying the bow tie, right? And sometimes I would tie the bow tie and it wouldn't tie, and it wouldn't stay tied, and it would be really ugly, and I would make funny faces while I did it, and it would take me forever when I was starting to tie bow ties. Now I can tie the bow tie while talking to you without a mirror, and it's no big deal. How come I'm fast at tying the bow tie? Yeah, I practiced a bunch. I'm good at tying bow ties. You want to get fast at logic games? Practice a bunch. Get good at logic games, and it'll be no big deal. I know that's not a satisfying answer. I know you wish that there was some little trick. There's not some little trick. You do need to just develop the skills that they test. And the only way to develop any skill is by practicing it. And so that's just what you have to do. It's just what you have to do. All right, last thing. I want you to tell me what you learned from this game as I pull up my takeaways from this game, and then we're going to set up another game together. You tell me, what'd you learn from this particular logic game? Make sure, as you tell me what you learned, I'm going to tell you what I hope you learned. Make sure that you are careful with your rules. Don't speed through your rules. Slow down there and think about what they mean. If you can build it right into the sketch, you should. Look for block spending, particularly on these sequencing games. Blocks are very powerful for making deductions from. One of the most common types of rules we get. And the bigger the block, the better, as far as we're concerned. I like big blocks, and I cannot lie. And then finally, new if, new sketch. And in fact, when in doubt, sketch it out, right? Like that's what your pencil's for. That's why you have scratch paper, so that you can work these things out. That's what you're supposed to do. And we have to make time for it. Good, 68A3, knowing the right order to do the questions in. In your first pass through the questions, start with the acceptability question and use our good Kaplan strategy, eliminate rule by rule. And then go to the new if questions next, right? The questions where you're gonna have to draw a picture anyway, because those pictures can help you answer other questions. Great. Making those deductions, 3651, I'm with you. Making those deductions is so important for our score. And Tina, you're right. You got to slow down. You got to slow down in order to get the right answers and avoid mistakes, because mistakes are very costly, both in terms of time and in terms of accuracy. And yet using those previous sketches, Kendall, love it, love it. We've got a whole 1 hour channel lesson, in fact, on using previous work. It's called Warp Zones. using previous work in logic games, it's one of my very favorite episodes because it's all about doing less work and getting more points. It's the most amazing thing. Good. I'm glad you guys are learning stuff. That's why we're here. Okay, so we have time to at least set up the next game. And so I want to set up the next game with you and do this together. But before I start jabbering at you, I want to give you a chance to do this. I'm gonna give you a chance to do this. So I'm gonna set up a little timer for myself, and I'm gonna give you a minute or so to take this as far as you can. This is another real game. So I'm gonna be quiet, and you're gonna work. And then in a minute and a half, take this as far as you can. We'll talk together through the setup. Ready, steady, go. Thirty seconds. All right. Come on back. Now, that probably wasn't enough time for you to totally finish, and that's okay. I think on a game like this one, something more like 2.5 minutes is appropriate for your setup. But hopefully you made some progress, and let's check the work that you did. So this time we have 7 products. Those are our entities that are each, that's a nice word, going to be advertised exactly once, nice, in a catalog. Okay, I've seen a catalog before. Once again, I don't see any good reason not to use our standard sketch. So I'm going to jot down my entities. I'm going to use our standard sketch. And now all I have to do is translate the rules and incorporate this information. Okay. We're told that Q is sometime before W. Let's write that down. Q sometime before W. Now the ellipsis here is reminding us, of course, that we don't know exactly how far apart these entities are. They could be right next to each other. They could have some other entities in between. Then we're told that R is immediately before X. This is even better than the first rule, right? Because we know that R and X are holding hands. So good, we're going to put a box around them. They have to work together. They're going to be directly next to each other. This time, there's no room in between them. Nice. Now, the third rule is less good because instead of getting positive information, we get negative information. We're told that T and W cannot touch. So we get negative blocks here. And negative information in general is not as strong as positive information. All we can do at this point is jot that down. But when I get to my deductions, I will think about how I can incorporate that information with what else I know. S is first or seventh. I'd rather not jot this down off to the side. It wouldn't be wrong to do, but I'd rather use arrows like this, make it visual. That's why I'm drawing a picture. And then finally, Q or T must be displayed fourth. Let me introduce you to what we call slash options here at Kaplan. A really great, easy way to do, it's either this or the other thing. It would not be wrong to do a second sketch here. I just don't think it'd be super useful. Like you wouldn't be able to make a whole lot of deductions based on doing a second sketch. So again, like there are times where it's totally appropriate. In fact, we got a whole 1-hour workshop about that too. It's called One Way or the Other, Limited Options in Logic Games. But you see, right, if depending on whether it's Q or T, that doesn't really tell me anything else about what happens. And so doing 2 sketches here just doesn't yield a lot of reward. And so it's one of the things that you learn as you practice is when limited options is going to allow you to make a lot of great deductions and when it's not. Now, I do want to ask you, what deductions were you able to make about where entities could not go? Because these are important deductions for us to at least consider whether or not we write them down. So what deductions could you make about where entities did not go? Actually, I want to go back. I don't want you working. No, not yet. Not yet. Anything about where entities do not go here? $36.51, it depends on the particular game. Some games you spend more time in your setup than others. There have certainly been games where I've spent, I don't know, 4 minutes on my setup because there's a lot to write down. Other games, they're like a minute and a half. There's just not much to write down. So it depends on the individual game for sure. Good. So we know that both W and X cannot go first. No W, no X, because they have to follow Q and R respectively. And likewise, Q cannot be last and R cannot be last. That's good. And likewise, we know that R cannot be third and X cannot be fifth. X cannot be fifth. S can't be in spots 2 through 6. I agree. It's not something I would write down, but it's true. There's one really hard one. There's one really hard one that I want to show you. And the really hard one is this. W cannot be third. This is an expert level deduction. W cannot be third. I want to talk to you about why. So this is what's really going to separate an expert like Deborah or Joe from just your average Joe is knowing and being able to see a deduction like this one. Well, why can't W be third? W can't be third because if Q is fourth, W is never third, right? W has to be after Q. On the other hand, if T is fourth, then W couldn't be third because W is not allowed to touch T. So irrespective of whether it's Q or T that goes fourth rather, W cannot go third. That's a tough deduction. And it's okay if you didn't make that deduction at this point in your journey, but I want you to show you, right, that this is the kind of thing that they will ask about on in the questions, right? And on this question, they're asking which of the following could be true. Well, we know that lots of these are not true, right? That Q is not seventh, and R is not third, and X is not going to be fifth. And W is not third. This is the one. All right there. I told you they're going to ask about it. They're going to ask. Nope. Q is fifth. Making these deductions ahead of time allows you to get a difficult question such as this one right more quickly and more easily. So it's always important for you to consider how your rules work together and what else you can say. I don't want you to get discouraged, though, if you're not ready to make these deductions yet. They take work. They take practice. And this is something that's true always for my students, is we never expect you to get it just by coming to class. We never expect you to get it the first time you see it. That's the wrong expectation to have, right? The way we learn things, the way we improve skills is we practice and we make mistakes and we learn to do better in the future. And most of us need a lot of practice in order to get good at the LSAT. That's just the way it is. It's not a test that you can cram for. So that's why I always encourage my students to think about what are the right next steps. All right, so we made progress in here, right? You guys told me you learned stuff. Progress is good. Better's better. But we need to keep improving. So then the next thing you need to ask yourself is, all right, so what do I do now in order to keep improving? And one of the things that you probably need to do now is figure out, well, what are the resources that I need in order to keep improving? Right? What are the things that I need in order to continue to improve at logic games, at the LSAT generally? So as you are thinking through this, it's really important, right, that you're serious with yourself about what it is that you need and how you can keep going. But there's no one size fits all answer, right? that's why we offer things in lots of different ways. That's why we got a book, because some people learn best with a book. And that's why we got videos, because some people learn best with videos. And that's why we got classes with teachers, because some people really want teachers, right? And that doesn't make you dumb or anything. It just means that that's the way you learn best. You should learn the way is best for you. So I want you to be real with yourself about what it is that you need and investing into getting yourself the resources that you need in order to succeed. Like that's what you should do. That's smart, to get yourself the resources that you need to succeed. But while I encourage you to look at all of them, I'm sure that Kaplan's going to come out on top because we have more live instruction than anyone else. The real thing that makes the difference, the thing we were working on together, that workshop, that's an LSAT channel lesson. That was an actual LSAT channel lesson. And these are 1 hour workshops. We run them every night throughout the test cycle and on the weekends. And so those are live lessons that students can attend. Of course, we have recordings of them as well, so that if your schedule doesn't match up with ours, you can go to them. And we have over 140 hours of additional lessons on top of your class, right? So you go to class, you get the foundation built, and then you pick and choose based on your individual strengths and weaknesses. Oh, I need to work more on logic games. Great, go to a logic games lesson. Oh, I need to work on formal logic. Great, go to a formal logic lesson. Oh, I need to work on analyzing arguments. Great, go to that lesson. Right, so much additional material, so much instruction. If you need help, we've got the help for you. And we expect our students to customize their studies based on their individual strengths and weaknesses. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to this test, and you certainly shouldn't be trying to do the same thing as everybody else, because you're not the same as everybody else, and we know that. The other things that you get with a course, of course, you get a teacher, and we're not just available in class. You also get your teacher out of class. And my very best students not only know that they can come early to class and stay late to ask questions, they also send me lots of emails with lots of good questions. And we know that teachers matter. So ask those good questions when you sign up for a course of your teacher. Please, you are not annoying us. We want you to ask those good questions. In your class, you're going to have off-camera teachers like Deborah and Joe, and wasn't it helpful to be able to just ask a question and to have them reinforce a point, right? Like this is actually, I think, the best part of our classes is that you don't have to feel weird about raising your hand or asking a question, right? You have a question, you just ask, you get it answered, you move on. So it's almost like getting the best parts of private tutoring because you have that one-to-one interaction and a classroom experience all at once. Now, of course, our classes don't take place in exactly this environment, but we still have a very interactive classroom with polls, just as we had in here, with chat, and we even have a private chat, right, so that you can have an entire private conversation in a separate whole box from where the public chat is going to keep yourself on track. As well as every real released LSAT question. You don't need to get anything else. If you get a Kaplan course, you're going to have it all. We already talked about customizing. You guys, you're going to have all the stuff you need. But let's have our for realsies talk about money. Let's have a for realsies talk about money. First of all, you use this code and you get money off, right? 15% free money. Go. I like free money. But I know, right, it's 2020, coronavirus is a thing, right? Money might be tight. That's okay. Don't assume you can't afford it. Please talk to a human being about it. Either call us or have us call you, or Deborah or Joe, would you grab the You Can Book Me link and put that in the chat so that people can have schedule a time for us to call them, right? We will have a teacher call you and talk to you. And if you call us on our 800 number, you will talk to a teacher on the phone. I know because I'm one of the teachers that sometimes answers the phones, right? Because we know that's the conversation you need to have, is you need to talk to a teacher about what your options are. And don't assume you can't afford it. We have all kinds of options. We've got all kinds of discounts, military discounts, and special school discounts, and special club discounts, and the discount list is very long. We do all kinds of payment plans. We even have tuition assistance. Now, in order to qualify for tuition assistance, you need to have show us your transcripts so we know you're a good student, and you need to have a recent FAFSA so we know that you qualify on a financial level. But if you do, we can discount the price of the course a lot, right? It is smart for you to get the resources you need in order to do well. And we should have a for realsies talk about money, because law school is expensive. For real, for real. Like, tell me in the chat, how much does law school cost? Just in tuition. I'm not talking about books and living expenses and everything else. How much is law school? 3 years. How much is tuition? Like between $30,000 and $50,000 a year. 3 years. We're talking $100,000 to $150,000. That's real money. Now, the number one determinant of whether you get into law school and the number one determinant of scholarship money is the LSAT. So you should do your very best on this LSAT in order to go to the school you want to go to and not pay as much as you would otherwise. And every test cycle, I have students do very well. And every year, I have students not only get into their goals school, but get a scholarship too. And for those students, it's absolutely worth the cost of the course. But that's the thing, is you've got to make it worth it. You've got to do the work once you sign up for class. But if you're going to do that work, this is a great deal. Seriously, you're serious about law school, but you can't afford to buy a book. You're serious about spending $150,000 for law school, but you can't afford to get yourself some videos, or to get yourself some practice tests, or to get yourself a teacher or a tutor. We got to be serious about what you're doing, what you're up against. Don't assume that we can't make the numbers work, because we usually can. And if you're going to use these resources, this is a fabulous deal. It's really important that you take it seriously, though, and actually do the work. If you sign up for my class, you're signing up for a bunch of work. I would love to have you in my class. I teach every Monday and Wednesday from 6 to 10 Eastern time. I teach every Saturday from 1 to 5 Eastern time. I am the instructor for our LSAT intensive boot camps. So if you sign up for the boot camp in October for the November test, or the boot camp in December for the January test, I'll be your teacher. But I'm going to make you work, because you just got to practice. That's the only way to do it. That's what you're signing up for. But if you need help, it's really smart to get yourself the help you need. And if you're not sure which help you need, and if you're not sure about the numbers, talk to a teacher about it. Either talk to Joe and Deborah right now, or call us, or have us call you. Let's have a conversation about who you are, where you're trying to get to, where you're starting from, what kind of resources work best for you. Because that's the only way to make sure that we get you the right answer. We want to make sure that you succeed. Okay, so the two books, we have a retail book and we have a lesson book. And so actually, let me stop share so we can just chatterooski now. I want to make sure that I did answer these questions. So we have the retail book and we have the lesson book. So the retail book you can buy at your local independent bookstore or on your favorite online retailer. Just search for LSAT Kaplan book, and you'll find it. The Prep Plus book, and it's got all of the strategies in there. It's a wonderful book, and we give it to all of our students that sign up for a full course as well. So it's a wonderful starting place for your study. But what was the last really hard class that you took? I'm not talking like it was kind of tough. What was the last really hard class that you took? Like stupid hard, like it was the worst for me. Let's see, what was the last really hard class that I took? I took, I was very foolish, and I signed myself up for a history of science class that I thought would be fun, and it ended up being an absolute nightmare. I was way out of my depth. I knew nothing about what was going on in the class. Oh, Izzy, was stats for you. I took myself some stats. I was a social science major, so I took some stats in my time. I actually got pretty good at stats because I had to take it so many times. Anyway, whatever it was for you, let's just say, oh, stats. Okay, you got to take stats. Here, I got the very best stats textbook on the market. Go on. Teach yourself statistics. Is that a good study plan? That would not be a good study plan for me. Right? Like it's not a you know how you learn best. If a book is not enough, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just means you need different resources than that. That's why we got different resources, right? Invest in yourself. Make sure you get the stuff that actually works for you. Lots of people need more than a book. The LSAT is the hardest test I've ever taken. Because it's totally different than all the other tests I've taken. You can't cram for it. It's not about knowledge. It's about skills. So for most folks, a book is not enough. That's okay. Let's get you the other stuff then. So it's just about being real with yourself. But if you haven't yet taken a practice test, that's the place that I would have you start, irrespective of anything else. That's the place where I have students start when they sign up for my class. Take a practice test, see where you're at, because that will let us build you a study plan. So if you haven't yet done that, in fact, I'll paste the link into the chat here for our free practice test that comes with full answers and explanations for every single question. It's a real LSAT. Yeah, there you go. Well, so 6683, here's the deal. Like, I can't say that I can't talk about most other books. I do know the Manhattan Preps books pretty okay, and they are excellent. I can't talk about the other ones, though, because I just don't know them. I just don't want you to get confused about strategies. So, like, just like how I said there are many right ways to solve logic games, there are many right ways to get right answers on the LSAT, period. Right? Like the thing that I want all of my students to do is master their ways. And so I just don't want you to get confused about which strategies you're using. I do think the Kaplan strategies are excellent, right? I endorse those heartily, but I think that whatever strategies you're using, you want to be consistent in applying them. And so if you feel like you've already got the basics down, then probably what you should do is you should get yourself a study pack, right, of just tests. And if you can get some focused mastery practice too, and work on that stuff, right? So actually practice using those strategies so that they become yours, so that you become an expert at using them, and your timing is exactly where it needs to be and other things. Now, that said, there are some specific chapters in our Unlock book that I think are bar none the best. So our chapters 6, 11, and 14 in that Unlock book are about section management. And they don't just have one set of strategies, they actually have several options that you should try in your time practice for managing an entire section's worth of questions. They're not very long. They're only like 10 pages long, those chapters. So they tell you everything you need to know about an entire section's worth of questions and how to manage it, and then give you some options. And my favorite part of that is they got like little case studies. If you're a student that rushes, here are some things you can try. If you're a student that has trouble with timing, you never finish on time, here are some things you can try. If you're a student that's a perfectionist, you have trouble letting things go, here are some things you can try. Because that's what your timing practice should be, right? They should be like little experiments that you do for attempting to see how a section's put together and how best you take it apart. Because while I think that everybody should be doing the same methods consistently, your strategies should be different than other people's, because your best way to approach a section is likely different than my best way to approach a section. That doesn't mean either one of us is doing wrong. It's because we have different strengths and weaknesses, right? We should play to our own strengths. We've got just a couple minutes left. Do you guys have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm just going to sing a song. Those of you who know me know that I always end with a song. So I'll do serious stuff first. I don't see any other questions coming in. So I'm going to get my guitar out. We're going to finish with a song. Thank you so much for coming. Keep working hard. If you guys need help, if you have questions, please talk to us. We want to help you. We want to help you. Well, and I've done this for too long. I had thousands of students. I've never had the same student twice. All of you are different. Don't do one size fits all. Talk to a teacher about what your plan is, and we'll figure it out together. But whatever you do, keep working hard, because that's what it's going to take in order to get your score. All right, here we go. I'm gonna try my best on the law school test. I'm gonna try till I can't try no more. Try my best on the law school test. I'm gonna try until I earn my score. LSAT is the test, give it full court press. Can't do nothing less, gotta give my very best. Working in my course, Kaplan is the source. Powerful like horse, test just can't resist my force. Can't nobody trick me nothing. Can't nobody trick me, nobody trick me nothing. Can't nobody trick. I'm gonna try my best on the law school test. I'm gonna try till I can't try no more. Try my best on the law school test. I'm gonna try until I earn my score. Izzy, Mala, 8564, you're so welcome. Keep working hard. Keep asking those good questions. That's what's gonna make the difference. Take care, everybody.